electors, the investigation pivoted to President Trump and, frankly, anybody who knew him. Do you know who Cleta Mitchell is?
Yes, I do.
She's an election lawyer that was involved in filing an election contest on behalf of President Trump in Georgia in December of 2020. A 64-page complaint with over 1,100 pages of exhibits, witness affidavits, and expert witness reports documenting thousands of votes cast in violation of Georgia law, but which were nevertheless included in the vote totals. Now, notwithstanding the disposition of the cases...
There's a moment in hearings like this when the volume drops, the interruptions stop, and something small but revealing slips through. Not a speech, not an accusation. Just a sentence that tells you how power actually works when no one thinks the cameras matter. This exchange wasn't about ideology or even January 6th. It was about process, about who gets told what and who doesn't when the government is using its authority behind closed doors. And that's why this moment matters, long before you get to the names involved.
Here right now, I do not recall a specific...
After repeated interruptions and a procedural fight over time, the witness finally answers, "We did not provide that information to the judge when we requested a non-disclosure order consistent with the law and consistent with department." That's the line. That's the hearing. Up to that point, the conversation is noisy. Arguments about belief versus criminality, First Amendment rights, partisan motives, accusations flying in every direction. But that sentence cuts through all of it. What's being acknowledged is simple. When records tied to the Speaker of the House were sought, the judge was not told whose records they were.
And their supposed crimes.
I don't recall specific conversations, but I'm sure that in the course of briefing them, I discussed...
Wasn't that the purpose of the entire investigation as it was set out? Because putting aside that in 1960, we've already talked about my friend Mr. Tiffany, that Hawaii put forward an alternate slate of electors, the investigation pivoted to President Trump and, frankly, anybody who knew him. Do you know who Cleta Mitchell is?
Yes, I do.
She's an election lawyer that was involved in filing an election contest on behalf of President Trump in Georgia in December of 2020. A 64-page complaint with over 1,100 pages of exhibits, witness affidavits, and expert witness reports documenting thousands of votes cast in violation of Georgia law, but which were nevertheless included in the vote totals. Now, notwithstanding the disposition of the cases that was filed, is that a criminal act? Filing an election contest on behalf of a candidate for office, a client. Is that a criminal act, yes or no?
No, in fact, we stated...
So why did you deem it appropriate to monitor Cleta Mitchell's long-distance phone records in 2023, 2.5 years after the election contest was filed and after the presidential electors were certified? What about Jenna Ellis? What about Sidney Powell? What about Bill Sepien? What crime did you suspect had been committed by them that would warrant monitoring their phone records 2.5 years after the 2020 election was certified?
With respect to Sidney Powell, she is one of the co-conspirators alleged in the indictment. I don't know what you mean by monitoring, sir, if you're talking...
Well, there were some 400 plus Republican conservative groups and leaders who were targeted by your investigation. Their financial records were obtained, records of the RNC, the Trump campaign, Cleta Mitchell, the Conservative Partnership Institute, the America First Policy Institute, NRCC, NRSC, PACs, conservative groups, people all across the country, citizens, because we hear a lot about members of Congress. And we should, because of separation of powers and the egregious abuse of power. But what we're not talking about enough, in my opinion, are the American citizens that have been targeted. Because frankly, are there any limits to the power of a special prosecutor or special counsel? So much so in your abuse of power that in the summer of 2024, the indictment involving classified documents was dismissed after determining your appointment violated the Appointments Clause of the Constitution, but you continued to sign your name on court filings until the time you resigned from office in January of 2025. A federal judge just recently stated a prosecutor who continues to sign his name in court filings after a disqualification order should face disciplinary action or disbarment. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Did the gentleman have the opportunity to respond?
If the gentleman wants to respond, he can.
With respect to the last point, Judge Cannon's order specifically limited her finding to that proceeding. So there would be nothing improper about continuing to litigate the cases in the case in Washington, D.C. And with respect to Florida. There was nothing improper about taking an appeal of that very decision.
This hearing wasn't memorable because it went off the rails. It was memorable because, for a moment, it stayed on them. The issue isn't whether one investigation was justified. It's whether the system rewards disclosure or concealment when the stakes are high. And until that incentive changes, these moments will keep happening, quietly, legally, and at public expense.